Good night, Papua New Guinea. I'm Malcolm Wyra, and welcome to another episode of Infocus. Tonight, we discuss the plight of refugees, both in PNG and around the world. We look at some of the hurdles confronting refugees, as well as the interventions by government and NGOs in assisting refugees. Joining us for discussions, we have Mr. Ephraim Bavi, Migrants Officer at the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. Ephraim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Firstly, Ephraim, can you define what is the international definition of individuals that are to be categorized as refugees?
Before I begin, I would like to thank EMTV for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Catholic Bishop Conference. So from what the international definition of refugees are people who fled war due to violence, conflict, or persecution and have crossed an international border to find safety in another country. So that is a definition given by United Nations High Commission for Refugees. But over time, this definition has changed. It was created, the definition came about because of World War II. Because of World War II, there was mass migration in Europe. So people started moving from war-torn states into places that were safe for them to stay. But the definition has changed over time due to the signing of a new convention, which it's covered under the 1967 protocol. So over the time, the definition changed, and now that it is defined as people who are unwilling to return to their country due to well-founded fear of persecution because of their race, the religion, the political opinion, or membership to a particular social group.
Okay. It's good you mentioned the convention, which it's recognized. I think globally, refugees are recognized under the Convention relating to the status of refugees, also known as the 1951 Refugee Convention, or the Geneva Convention of 28. Could you give us a brief explanation of the convention itself and its key aspects and core functions of the convention?
Okay. So as I've mentioned, the convention came about because of World War II. So during World War II, there was a huge migration of about 40 to 60 million people were being displaced because of the war. But since the creation of the 1951 convention, the instrument was defined refugees in the context of World War II, where it was defined within Europe and people within Europe at the time of World War II. So with the creation of the 1967 protocol, it changed the definition to include other areas as well, where people were being persecuted and killed because of the 5 factors that I mentioned, because of the political opinion, because of the religion, what they believed in, the nationality, the membership to a particular social group. So it was changed, and from there it shifted to be inclusive of everyone else.
Are you able to give us some examples of these specific types of refugees?
Okay, so a good example would be the Somalian civil war that's been happening. So you still have people moving, crossing borders in Somalia. In 1951, the definition only included the people moving from Europe to another European states or to the USA. So with the new definition in the 1967 protocol, it was inclusive of other states as well. So that's the difference between the two, between the 1951 convention and the 1967 protocol.
It's good you mentioned the religious persecution. What are some examples that would come to mind, particularly around the region, around particular refugee groups that are being persecuted as a result of their religious beliefs?
We know what's really happened, what's been happening in the Middle Eastern countries, and also in India, where you see Muslims and Christians fighting because of what they believe in. So from that, you can be able to know that when people leaving their state and then seeking refuge in other states, they can be classified as refugees.
Okay. The organization you work for is the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. Can you give us a brief background of your organization and how your organization works with governments and other humanitarian organizations around the region to provide support for refugees?
Okay. So CBC is basically the secretarial head of the Catholic Church. So most of the administrative work of the Catholic Church is done in CBC. So in CBC we support evangelical work, and also we support pastoral work. With evangelical you have the religious teachings, and that's where you have like we support bishops in financing if they want to open up a church, something like that. With pastoral work we support humanitarian work. So in that you have the Catholic schools, you have the Catholic health, and also you have the work that I am currently doing. We support migrants and refugees or internally displaced persons. So we basically manage the affairs of the Catholic Church. Okay.
Thank you, Ephraim. We'll now take a quick break. Join us on the other side for more discussions. Welcome back to Infocus. In this session, we discuss the challenges confronting refugees and the interventions by governments and NGOs in assisting refugees in the country. Ephraim, from your organization's perspective, what specific challenges and hurdles do confront refugees in Papua New Guinea?
With regards to refugees and the challenges that they face, I will be explaining the challenges in two different groups that we're currently working with. So we have the West Papuan group, which there's a lot of West Papuan refugees we have here in PNG, and we also have the asylum seekers that were placed in Manus. So the challenges are both different. So with the asylum seekers in Manus, there seems to be a delay in the relocation of those refugees. So due to the lengthy process, this has kept them here in the country for a decade. And some have even developed chronic illnesses, and some have even gone into some psychological illnesses. So there's like a lack of attention given to the Manus asylum seekers. So they've been here, they've been waiting. It's really difficult dealing with the expectations of them. Like every time you have UNHCR, you have ICA talking to them and then promising them that, oh, we'll send you over to Australia, or we will resettle you in another country, but they're still here. And this has really had a bad effect on them. So that is for the asylum seekers that were here, that are here. For the West Papuan refugee, the issue that they currently are facing is having a place to stay. So they've just been here in Moresby, in other parts of Papua New Guinea as well, in West Sepik province. They just settle in land as like squatter settlements. They don't have a permanent land where they have title over. So it is something that CBC is currently working closely with, in Moresby, the NCD governor, and with the Deputy Prime Minister in coming up with a portion of land to place them so they can stay. So for the West Papuans, they don't have a permanent place to stay. So currently they're just in lands that they don't have title over. So it's been an issue, and like they've been going to court for the land for the number of years that they've been here in Moresby and also in other provinces where they've been.
Do they have a recognized organization that voices their concerns and their efforts for government assistance or assistance generally from the international community?
They usually voice their concerns through UNHCR, and since CBC is here, we also speak on behalf of them. So from what I know, as the migrants officer, CBC and UNHCR have only been the two organizations that's been speaking on behalf of these West Papuan refugees.
Okay. It's good you mentioned the asylum seekers that are here as a result of the Australian offshore processing policy. How have you found asylum seekers that are here as a result of the Australian offshore processing policy?
Okay. So we think, CBC thinks that they shouldn't be here in PNG. They've been sent here against their own will. They didn't choose to come to PNG. And ever since they've been here, and they haven't been, the information haven't been processed, and they haven't been sent to countries which they want to be in. So currently, from what the data that we have 85. We have 85 refugees that are still here. So out of the 85, 52 are being processed. So the 52 that has been processed, they have a resettlement pathway. So the 3 countries that UNHCR with the Australian government and New Zealand government, Canadian government, and the United States government are sending them to is those countries that I mentioned.
What are some solutions offered by your organization to assist the plight of refugees in Papua New Guinea and the region as a whole?
Okay, so CBC, we've written to the government of PNG, we've written to the Australian government, the Foreign Affairs Minister. This is in regards to the Manus asylum seekers. So we've been pushing to send them, like to take them out from PNG, because it's not right for them to be here in PNG. And for the West Papuan people, we are working closely with the Deputy Prime Minister, the Mosby Governor, to find a portion of land so that at least they have somewhere where they can stay and they could build a life in.
I would imagine the cultural and language barriers would be quite an impediment for the refugees themselves. What sort of assistance is the CBC providing in that regard? Okay,
with regards to the West Papuan refugees, we have been running a couple of projects. So with these projects, we send them to schools, we buy their school fees. And for the asylum seekers, we've been working with UNHCR and International Organization for Migration. So they send over, they send people that can be able to talk to them. So that's for rehabilitation and get them to understand the PNG culture. Okay.
The government of Papua New Guinea is undertaking a major nationwide naturalization and registration project through the Immigration and Citizenship Authority to regularize the status of an estimated of 10,000 West Papuans refugees in the country. How have you found this government intervention so far, and where do you think more needs to be done to better fast track this process?
Okay. We think that the naturalization process is good, but it was carried out 10,000. The data that they estimated 10,000 West Papuan refugees was estimated in 2014. So from the data that we have, we believe that it's currently there could be around 15 to 16,000 refugees here in PNG already. So the initiative taken by the government is good. But the thing is, we can register them, but they don't have a land to stay. How will they build a life for themselves? How can they sustain themselves once they're registered? Unlike us Papua New Guineans, we have a support system, we have land, we have families. Them coming here, they have nothing. So after registering them, then what else can we do? So this is something that CBC is strongly advocating for, is getting a land so that they may stay, so that they can build a life for themselves here in Papua New Guinea.
I mean, such interventions are quite a costly exercise. So, from your perspective, from the perspective of your organization, where can the funding be secured? Is it through government? Is it through multilateral institutions or NGOs, like yourself?
Okay. The projects, I'll only speak for the projects that we're running and the funding that we're getting. CBC being a Catholic institution, we mostly get funding from other international Catholic organizations such as ICMC, which is the International Catholic Commission, Migrants Commission. So we get fundings from such international organizations, and then we fund our programs. But for the PNG, I cannot speak on behalf of the PNG government and ICA where they get their funding, but from the work that we've done, mostly the funding we get from the Catholic Church.
Okay. Thank you, Ephraim. We now go for a quick break. Join us on the other side for more discussion. Welcome back. You're watching Infocus. In the studio, we have Mr. Ephraim Bavi, Migrants Officer for the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. Ephraim, recently Papua New Guinea and the world celebrated the World Refugee Day on the 20th of June with the theme of Hope Away from Home. Can you give us a brief background of the day, its celebration, and the particular theme that was chosen for this year's celebration?
Okay. So the 2023 World Refugee Day, we were expecting UNHCR or the United Nations to host something, but none of the other international organizations came up with the day. So CBC had to take the initiative to at least hold something to commemorate this day. The theme Hope Away from Home, from what we understand, means providing a safe place for refugees to stay. So when we signed up for the 1967 Convention protocol, we are obligated to shelter refugees. So whenever they need protection and they come into Papua New Guinea as a nation, we are open to accept people whose lives are under threat in their own state where their country can provide protection for them. So with that, providing a hope away from home is accepting them into our country.
A critical, new and emerging threat in the world today is climate change. In Papua New Guinea, we do have our certain sections of our society that have become refugees as a result of climate change. A good example would be the Cataract Islands. What interventions is your organization doing to assist these particular types of groups of people?
Okay, so firstly, when we're talking about movement within a state itself, you cannot say that someone is a refugee, but that person is identified as a migrant, because a refugee is someone crossing an international border due to the 5 reasons that I've already mentioned, which their lives are under threat because of well-founded fear, because of their religious beliefs, the nationality, or being part of a social group, or their political opinion. But within a state itself, with internally displaced persons, CBC is also working towards helping them being resettled. So we've done research on, I think there's certain islands in New Ireland. That is something new that we've just ventured into, and we're also doing research on and working on. So it's moving people from the traditional land and then placing them somewhere different. So it takes a lot of work to do that. So it's something new for CBC, and we're currently working on it as well. Yeah.
Your organization has been very actively engaged in addressing and assisting refugees in the country and the region as a whole. Are there any notable partnerships that come to mind that has assisted you in that regard?
Yes, we are working closely with the International Organization for Migration. We are working closely with UNHCR, United Nations High Commission for Refugees. We also are a part of APRRN, which means the Asia Pacific Refugee Rights Network. And we've been working together with them, getting ideas on how to run projects and how to deal with people who are internally displaced and also deal with refugees. Yeah.
Finally, do you have any concluding remarks you'd like to make regarding the work that CBC does in assisting refugees in the country?
Okay. So the Desk of Migrants and Refugees for CBC was recently established. It was only established in 2021, and it's something new for CBC. We are currently building networks within PNG and also internationally, trying to connect with other organizations that do the same work that we're trying to do. So it's something new, and we're looking forward to working with other organizations. So if there are other NGOs, or if there are other international organizations or the government, we're open to work together to find solutions to issues like this.
Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. It's been a very informed discussion on our topic for tonight, refugees in Papua New Guinea. Before we go, I'd like to take this time to thank our special guest, Mr. Ephraim Bavi, Migrants Officer for the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. Ephraim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Infocus. Till next week's edition, good night from us.